matches the longest in his career. And that's a guy who is now 23-5 against Chicago when you include the playoffs. Packers go to 10-3. Bears, 7th loss in their last 8 games. I mean, they were 3-2 at one point in time. Now, not so much. And Matt Nagy's going to be like, I'm done seeing these guys. 1-7 against the Pack as the Bears head coach. He has never, ever, 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 ever won at Lambeau Field. All right. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? You going to argue with it? I still own you?
That's the face of ownership.
Yeah, that is the face of ownership. Has its privileges. Isn't that what's I mean, you can say whatever you want. You can try to argue, but, you know, he just goes scoreboard, Holmes, scoreboard. 23-5. Oh, by the way, he's covering the spread 3/4 of the time. And it's a pretty good touchdown interception ratio, 61-12. Yikes, if you're a Chicago Bear fan, you're like, okay, please feel free to move on to Jeopardy. Welcome in, CBS Sports HQ, presented by Honda. Determination powers us in everything that we do. I'm Eric Casilius. The crew is all here. Jonathan Jones, Ryan Wilson, and man, oh man, Green Bay gets it done. Let's start with the winners. What did you think of their performance tonight? I mean, they had some weird special teams plays. Some of their points came on defense. They were actually gave up a whole bunch of points in the first half. They were trailing by 10 at one point in time. But overall, they were darn good. Give me a grade.
I'll give them a B+, and I think they earned that based on their second half performance. During the halftime, JJ pointed it out. The Packers have to limit the big plays, the special teams gaffes, and that's what we saw in the first half, the 97-yard touchdown punt return that you mentioned, EK. And then at the end of the game, the onside kick that was recovered also by the Bears after that weird decision to kick a field goal. Those are the things you have to tidy up. You can win against a Bears team that is aimless, for lack of a better word, but that's not going to happen once you get to January and hopefully February if you're Green Bay. But the conversation, as always, starts with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones. We can add A.J. Dillon in there, who led the team in rushing tonight, and then the ancillary players who help out when those guys are covered. But here's the thing. Devontae Adams is never covered. He is always finding ways to get open, most noticeably on those touchdown catches that he had. He had 2 tonight. So I think if you're the Packers, you're certainly happy with the win. You're not happy with the first half performance. Tidy up the big plays they allowed on short passes and the special teams, and then you move on from there. This is a B+ win for me.
A B+ from Ryan Wilson. I'm going to give it a solid C here.
What?
A solid C.
They scored almost half 100. I'm not disagreeing with your C. I'm just waiting for you to flesh out why they're getting a cookie, which is not exactly what you want to hang on the refrigerator.
Oh, well, allow me to retort. Aaron Rodgers had a heck of a game. There's no question about it. He threw 4 touchdowns. What do you know? He's the reigning MVP. He's supposed to have a heck of a game. The offense did its job. For the offense, their grade is an A. Look at the defense, though. The Chicago Bears were able to score 30 points. You know how many times the Chicago Bears have scored 30 points before Sunday night? None. None this season. The most they had scored was 27 points in a loss earlier this season. Hadn't even scored over 25 points outside of that 27-point loss earlier. So the defense didn't hold up its end of the bargain. The Chicago Bears were able to put up points. Obviously, they put up more points there in the first half, but they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. This may have been the worst special teams performance I've seen in the NFL all season long. You look at it, there was the onside kick at the end. There was a 97-yard punt return that happened. There were 131 punt return yards out of 3 returns. They had a kickoff return yard average of over 25 yards per return. So no, the special teams got a big fat F. And because special teams plays a role in this, you have to consider that third phase of the game when formulating your grade. So Aaron Rodgers in the offense, A. The defense, probably a D. And then you had the special teams unit, a big fat F that averages out, EK, to a C.
If you're giving the special teams those points, well, the defense only gave 23, right?
Well, I mean, I'm saying that the entire team.
And in the second half, they only gave up what? 3.
Well, it's nice that they did that. It's good that they came together in the final 30 minutes.
All right, I'm just pointing out, just trying to flesh it out. I'm not disagreeing with your grade. I mean, you're grading more like a chemistry teacher than a gym teacher. Yeah. I'll give you that. You know, you're not just giving everybody an A. I like that. We don't just say, oh, yeah, everybody gets an A. We actually give you real grades here. On the other side, what are you going to give Justin Fields tonight? And you can't give him an incomplete because the offensive line stinks. You got to give him something.
You're reading my mind because incomplete was good.
I know what
You wanted to cop out.
Wilson wants to do.
I'm not giving him a C because the man played his heart out. And as you noted, he has no one blocking for him. Our resident Bears fan in the studio is not a huge Allen Robinson fan. And Allen Robinson didn't show up tonight. He did have help from his other receivers who took short passes and took him to house. But that's not something you can count on week in and week out. David Montgomery had a really good game, but it is so incredibly difficult to determine whether Justin Fields is good or not because he is running for his life for 60 minutes. He's incredibly tough, maybe one of the toughest quarterbacks in the NFL based on the number of hits he takes per drop back. I'll give him a B-. Again, I'm a much easier grader than JJ on these things, but I feel sorry for him on one level, and I hope they can surround him with an offensive line next year, and we can see how good he is. But if we're ranking the rookie quarterbacks, he, for me, is probably number 2 behind Mac Jones, and that's only because Mac Jones is in a great landing spot. But we don't know about Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, or Zach Wilson at this point.
If you're gonna grade him as a rookie, you get a different grade than if you're just grading him as a quarterback, right? I mean, that's fair. So we got to say, you know what? Look, he's not particularly accurate. He makes a couple of really bad decisions, but you hope that over time that gets smoothed out, at least the bad decisions. Everyone's entitled. I mean, you got to have a learning curve. It's okay. I'm not judging him against the veterans in the sport. If I were, then he would get I think B- would be too high and get a bad grade. But he still is inaccurate, and he still does make some very bad decisions. He had a terrible pick 6. He holds the ball too long sometimes. But every once in a while, then you go, wow, I see why they drafted him in the first round.
Right.
What are you going to do with him here?
Yeah, he's an incredibly tough kid. We saw that, obviously, from the college football playoff, really what he's gone through this season out there on the football field getting banged around. I think it's a pretty fair grade, honestly. Yeah, I think that we're grading him on a curve. I'm not holding him to the sort of standard that I'm holding the reigning NFL MVP with nearly 20 years of professional football experience. I'm not holding him to the standard of the year in, year out fantastic Green Bay Packers. I'm holding him to the standard of he is being hamstrung by Matt Nagy and that coaching staff, a lame duck coaching staff, probably a lame duck general managing group and front office that has saddled him with a poor offensive line, and that he goes into Lambeau in primetime in his rookie year where he has not started all the games. In fact, he should have started obviously far more games than he has as they played that weird little game with Andy Dalton earlier in the season. And he was able, along with the special teams unit as well, to put up 30 points there, the most points that they had put up in any other game. However you get it, you get it. And he almost had 300 yards of total offense when you look at the 224 passing yards, 74 rushing yards on 9 attempts. Of course, the 2 touchdowns. He threw a couple more interceptable balls. He had 2 interceptions, and Ike, you point out that he is going to make mistakes sometimes. That's what a rookie quarterback does. That's what a risk-taking quarterback does. You get him for his playmaking ability. You brought him in for his toughness. You traded up for him for those things, and he's going to have to build off of those as time goes along. He will. I thought that he had a B+ game tonight.
Yeah, he's got to get better, and you hope he does. I mean, I'm with you. I think I give him would you give B-?
Yep.
I think I go B- tonight. I mean, I was not like, wow, I'm really impressed. And I think part of it is because his line stinks and he's a young player. I mean, that's the way it is. Matt Nagy, you pointed that out. Look, he was 12-4 in Coach of the Year first year, then went 8-8, then went 8-8. Now they're 4-9. You got to think this is going to come to an end at some point in time. It has been going in the wrong direction in Chicago for a few years now. All right, we started with the winners in Green Bay. Let's go full circle and end there. This team has been in the Final Four 2 years in a row. If they want to get that and more, where do they need to get better? I don't mean like where didn't they play well tonight, because you documented it. They didn't play well in special teams. Where do they need to improve each week over the next 4 or 5 weeks when they get to the playoffs so they can stand and beat the Cardinals, the Bucks, the Cowboys, the Rams, or the Niners once, maybe even 2 of those teams to go back to the Final Four, maybe beyond?
Yeah, I want to see more consistency out of the run game. They eclipsed 100 yards, but when they lost to Minnesota a couple of weeks ago, they were under 100. When they beat the Rams, they didn't need to do it on the ground, but they were less than 100 there. And now Chicago, they were right there. I talked in the pregame, I talked at halftime about how Matt LaFleur really wanted to focus on expanding their run game, getting more success there in the red zone, because that's going to open up things for them in the red zone. They came into this game just 55% success rate in the red zone, and success, of course, means touchdowns and not just field goals there. So I want to see more consistency out of A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. I want to see a more of commitment to the run game in the first half. They didn't have enough runs early on against the Chicago Bears when they went down early. They sort of balanced it out once you saw the end of it in 60 minutes. You look at the final stat sheet, you say, all right, Jonathan, I don't know what you're talking about. It looks like good balance to me in a 15-point win. They didn't have that early on until they finally wrested control back from the Chicago Bears there early in the third quarter, and that's when they started to balance out. They need to continue that sort of pattern if they want to get back to the NFC title game for the third time in 3 years.
No, that's a great point, JJ. And I think a nice juxtaposition of that is the Bills, who refused to run the ball at all on Sunday and found themselves in a deep hole. Matt LaFleur understands how important balance is, even if you have Aaron Rodgers on your roster, and perhaps that's something that the Bills might want to take a look at. But I think in addition to the running game, which is clearly something that's important, what was clearly obvious as well on Sunday night was the special teams was atrocious. And you can't have those sort of mistakes against good football teams and expect to win, even with Aaron Rodgers. And I think those are the things you can tidy up. You can improve the run game. Their offensive line should be getting healthier, so that will help as well. You can improve special teams. That's more want to than anything. And I think if you're able to do those things, the way the offense is playing, you have to feel pretty good about where you are if you're the Green Bay Packers. Going forward, they're at Baltimore. We don't know about Lamar Jackson. They have Cleveland and Minnesota at home, and they finish with Detroit on the road. So you have to think they're making a legit run at the first overall seed in the NFC. Another week to get healthy. They're just waiting for the Cardinals to stumble, which is yet to happen. So they're in great shape. They didn't play great tonight. JJ obviously was not impressed with that C grade he gave them. No. But the good news is they still found a way to win. And winning and playing poorly for some part of the game is important as you try to get down the stretch here over the final month of the season.
Yeah, clean it up. They were sloppy in spots.
Yeah.
You guys are absolutely right. They were sloppy. They got to clean it up. But if they can play at home, certainly that would help, despite the fact that, remember, last year, Green Bay was, in fact, hosting the NFC Championship game, and they got Tom Brady to throw 3 second-half picks in the NFC Championship game, and they still lost a weird game. Because in any one game, weird things happen. But you see what they've done at home. That's right. Only one team has been within single digits, and nobody has been within a touchdown. And you look right now, the Super Bowl odds, the chances to win the NFC, Bucs 28%, Green Bay 22%, Arizona 20%, Dallas 17%. If we want to put it in percentages, that would change if you're the 1 seed, because remember, this year, the only team that gets that bye is the 1 seed. Everybody else has to play. And if you're the 1 seed, you get a week off, you win 2 home games, you go to the Super Bowl.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.